The most common return to office is a hybrid model. What that drives then is a need for higher quality audio and higher quality video when it comes to those meeting spaces.
Let's use AI in a new way and expand that, put that into a solution that earns people's confidence and trust because it just works well.
Giving folks the ability to walk in and just collaborate elevates our industry a bit more.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Smarter Spaces podcast. I'm your host, Michael Trezza. In this special episode, we're talking about all the industry trends that are shaping up here in 2025. How is this redefining the industry landscape? As everything evolves at lightning speed, how do we ensure that customers stay ahead of the curve? Stick around as we're about to unpack all of these amazing insights with two special guests coming up. Stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Smarter Spaces podcast. We have a special one today. We are here live at Masters 2025. I am here with Brad Hincy, Executive Vice President of Global Marketing here at Crestron, and a very special guest, Tim Albright, President of AV Nation. Gentlemen, how you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Good morning.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course. Super excited about our chat today. Obviously, again, we're live here at Masters. So, Brad, from a 30,000 foot view, right, we have the Modern Work certification and course going on here. So, you want to give us a quick overview of what that is and dive into the details of that?
Yeah, so this is the first time that we've introduced Modern Work certification. Masters has a long history of really useful training and education as it relates to programming and very technical concepts. But increasingly, we know that a lot of our partners need additional kind of in-between knowledge about how do you leverage a particular solution? How do you quickly deploy it? What are the best use cases? And so what we did is we introduced this track that is more designed for consultants and salespeople at a dealership, right? Those that are making recommendations, but don't necessarily need to get into the level of programming. We're bringing that and adding that to Masters. Now, what we'll cover is a lot of the needs within the Modern Work. So you've got all of the control, content, collaboration solutions. So things like AirMedia for content and for presentation and conferencing. You got AV over IP. You have Flex within Windows and Zoom. And then you also have intelligent video design. So you can design those multi-camera solutions as well. So we take everyone through when to use it. How do you deploy it? What are the important considerations? And give them that actual training and education as it relates to those technologies.
Right. Sounds like we have that specific audience is kind of driving the certification, right? You mentioned that we have it's not the level of the depth of obviously the programming, but we kind of have that specific audience that is the drivers there for that.
Yeah. Well, so many different individuals come into play in bringing projects to life for end customers. And so how can we help spread that knowledge about what the solutions are and how they can be leveraged across our whole channel?
Right. Yeah. Interesting. We're hearing a lot about return to office, right? The RTO, that's a big one. What's been the overall vibe here? Tim, I'll leave this one to you. What's the strategy there? Is it a lot of every day in the office, 5 days? Is it hybrid? Is there a corporate real estate factor with the business decisions being made here in that sense?
I hate this answer because I hate when I get it, but it depends. And it depends on the organization. The headlines is, Amazon and Apple, Google even are saying everybody's coming back 5 days a week, right? I don't care. JP Morgan, I think has said that. Beyond those headlines though, you have several corporations that are saying, wait a minute, we don't have to be all in the office the entire time. You've got the most common return to office is a hybrid model where you've got 3 days in the office, 2 days, working remote, whatever remote work means to you. And that seems to be a good happy medium between leadership and the folks and the employees. And what that drives then is it actually accelerates a need for higher quality audio and higher quality video when it comes to those meeting spaces. Because if not everybody's in the office all the time, well, then you need that technology to make sure that the meeting is collaborative, everybody can see each other, everybody can hear each other, right? You mentioned corporate real estate, and that actually comes into play here too, because during the pandemic. There was many articles written about the sky is falling when it comes to corporate real estate, right? Big headlines about, this tech company pulling out of a multi-year, hundreds of $1 million contracts. And what we're seeing is those come back, right? You've got several high profile corporate real estate owners and management groups that are outfitting several new buildings, especially in the New York and the LA area, where they're building out again, and the folks are coming back because of this hybrid agreement. And so they're needing technology and they're needing the ability to, again, communicate and collaborate with everybody. So it's driving a need that, again, 21, 22, those of us in the industry were probably sitting there wringing our hands going, oh my gosh, this market that we have evolved and helped develop is gone. Wait a minute, right? It's not gone. It was paused for a minute, but now we are getting back to maybe even a more evolved and developed technology need because of that hybrid agreement.
Right.
Yeah, I think that it really comes down to there isn't a formula that that will work for every company, right? And a lot of this push is happening, I think, because a lot of business leaders want to take charge of the culture within their company, right? And some are asserting we need to be in person to drive that culture. Some are asserting, nope, we're fully remote because this is our culture. But at the end of the day, that culture is a major driver. And I think that what you were talking about, the quality of the audio, the quality of the video, is such a critical component of enabling that culture.
Yep.
And so I think as it relates to our industry and what we're doing, all of these things are good because we have an ability to come in with technology and say, great, we can contribute to your culture. We can make sure that you collaborate really effectively when you're in person. We connect those people that are remote. We do it with high quality audio and video. And we talked about yesterday in the keynote, the research that shows that low quality audio is diminishing the way people perceive the people on the other end. And that is a culture that has a negative impact on the culture. Yeah. Right. And now we've been talking about this for a while. Obviously, we know this. We're in the industry, but it's good to see that the research is catching up to validate that it is important. If you want to build the best culture where employees are respected, understood, you're able to help influence your colleagues, high quality audio and video contributes in that, right? So that you're portrayed well. So I think all of these trends then at the end of the day are great for our channel, right, and for where we all are positioned. If we can go out there and demonstrate, hey, we're an important part of building and shaping a culture.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously there's various downstream effects that impacts this, and it's kind of cool to be on our side of things to be like, hey, we can help optimize this and make this possible, which is really neat. So obviously we're in Spain, right? So we're in the EMEA region. So Tim, how is the difference here in terms of these return to work orders? Is that a global differentiation between maybe the US market and the EMEA market? Are there different strategies here? How does that work?
So I've learned something in the last 6 months. We were all at ISE in Barcelona back in February and having some conversations with folks that are in EMEA, and the subject of return to office came up. And they kind of looked at me and said, what is your guys' problem?
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah. We never left.
Yeah, we've been here. Yeah.
So, and learning something is not only is that their culture, right? But part of it was like the infrastructure. In the US, our homes, quite frankly, tend to be bigger, right? Than they are in Europe. Part of that is the fact that just the age of the country, U.S. and Europe. It's also how they live, right? Smaller living spaces, but they go out in public and they go to places more often. So they don't have a place at home other than like your kitchen table, which those of us who work remote understand that's not a great experience. So when it comes to Europe, a lot of folks just never went home to work, right? So there have been several articles. AV Magazine's a great resource for those in the States that are looking at EMEA. they've looked at it and said, depending on the country, right? The UK did a little bit of remote work, right? And so now they're also struggling with RTO. But other parts of Europe, they just never went home. And so, there's that market is not necessarily, the same as the US market, because they were like, who cares?
Right. Yeah. Asia had some of the same trends, right? They just didn't go fully this direction. And I think it's an indicator that there are regional differences in the culture of work, right? And you have to contribute within that kind of region's specific needs.
Yep.
Right. Now, Brad, do you think there's other factors here of these RTO edicts that are driving our industry, right? Is there a sense of we need to make people more comfortable in the office, or we need to obviously make it easier for them to work from home? Are there different factors there that are driving our industry?
Yeah, of course. I think that, think about it. When you work from home, when I work from home, you work from home, we have our laptop and our setup, and, we're also represented really well, right? And then when you go into the office, maybe the conference room isn't running well. Maybe the camera doesn't do great. You get used to being the only one on screen from your camera when you're at home, but then you go in the conference room and you're a little dot, right? Well, guess what? Then you just start taking the call from your office while you're at the office. Right? And that's frustrating, and people don't want that. And so then that just contributes to this angst within, getting people to the office. And so that kind of trying to solve those problems, that's what's driving the need for things like intelligent video that frames people, right? Really great audio so you can hear people speaking within the room. So I think that there is that once you go back in there, you have different needs and expectations, right? And we're actually seeing this too. Another thing we spoke about on the keynote is that a lot of the non-technical business leaders that are throughout the organization, they're driving the expectations. They have expectations that have been set now, and they need us to meet those. It's a good opportunity because we can meet them, but it's a whole new audience that that we need to help enable. And so those are some of the big things driving.
Sure. But some of that is, it's a little bit, I don't want to paint a broad brush about corporate leaders, but some of it is they didn't experience it until COVID, right? And after that, right? So if they didn't experience it, it wasn't on the radar. Not that they didn't care, but it wasn't in front of them. But now it has been for the last 4 years,
totally.
Right? They've seen that. They've experienced that. They're getting the pushback from whether it's the return to office edicts that they're trying to push. And so they're feeling that pain.
Oh, yeah.
So they're seeing the need to drive the innovation and the technology.
Well, it's not unlike the way that mobile is so embedded into our daily lives. Imagine if somebody just took away your phone, right? Or said, now you've got a flip phone. You can't access the internet. You can't access.
Right.
That's
call and text only.
Yeah, that's just a part of how we get stuff done. And we're now at that place with things like Teams, things like Zoom, right? And chat and video and calling are so deeply embedded now, which was not true 6 or 7 years ago.
Right.
Now, Brad, you had started to dive in a little bit about the working from home side of things. So are companies ensuring that maybe remote setups are top quality, or is it that it's up to the employee to kind of optimize their setup, or does that kind of come naturally, right? Because we're all in the tech industry, so we're immersed in it, so we're always making sure our equipment's the best it can be. I'm a stickler for audio and video quality at home, but the everyday person, let's say, is it just open up their laptop, they have their camera and their built-in laptop mic? We've seen a little bit of everything, but do you think that organizations are helping optimize that?
I think that there's clearly better, it seems from the data that we at least see, is that organizations have policies around that. And so they've got a solution there. I think the other thing is there was such a rush to outfit them when they most needed it.
Right.
And I think there's some sense of, okay, so that problem's solved now.
Right.
And now we're going to go back into the office. And so at least from the conversations that we've had and some of the data that we're seeing is, that's like, okay, this is a solved problem. We're not going to overinvest there because we need to invest in these spaces in the office now. Right. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if you hear.
Well, I think I agree with you about when we all kind of went home, at least again back to the States, there was that rush. Like everybody grabbed anything they could, right? If you sold webcams in 2020, 2021, you made a killing, right?
Yep.
But now I agree with you a little bit where like that problem is solved. Some of it is, but also organizations are saying, okay, we got through that 4 or 5 years ago. Now they're developing standards, right? A little bit to your question there, where this is our standard work from home setup, right? You get this mic, you get this camera, you get this, right? And if you want to go beyond that, then that's on you.
Sure.
Right. But this is our minimum,
right,
because it's something that referenced the study that said, good audio is important for collaboration. If this is our minimum, because we need to be able to hear you and see you and to connect with you. Right. Now, if you want to do, I'm probably a little extreme on this, but I have a key light and a fill light, because I'm an old broadcast guy, and that's what my home setup is, right? I have a Shure SM7B, again, because that is the audio.
Yep.
It's on a boom arm.
Yeah.
That is an extreme example, right? But I think that companies are doing, at least smart ones are saying that this is our standard package.
Sure.
You want to do more than that, that's entirely up to you, but this is the minimum that we require to be able to communicate.
This meets our quality demands here. Sure. That's super interesting. So let's move on to the topic of AI.
What's
A1? No.
A1, yes.
Yes.
So we know it's everywhere, right? So in actual practice, right, in the industry, how is it actually being used in the workplace right now? Is it being used effectively? Tim, I'll let you dive into this very broad topic right now.
Okay. So how long is this podcast? The quick answer is it is being used. If you don't think it's being used in your corporation or your organization, you are naive. And it is being used a little bit haphazardly. And again, that's a broad brush. There are certainly organizations that are saying, that they have AI groups or an AI committee or an AI leadership, and they are developing standards. They are developing rules of the road, right? These are the things that you're allowed to put into AI. These are the things you're not, right? These are the ones that we are comfortable with you using. These are the things that you're not. Other organizations, they have no rules,
right?
And it's whatever, right? I have a dear friend who used to be in the industry and it since gone on to be a lawyer. And we're having conversations, and he said, you would be shocked at some organizations in the law side of things that are either completely Luddites, like not touching at all, or on the opposite end, uploading contracts to ChatGPT, which also has its own issues, right?
Yep.
So if from a business side as well as from an AV side, AI can do a whole lot of things, right? It is not a panacea. It is not infallible, right? So the whole trust but verify, you leverage it and use it for processes. You leverage it and use it for data analysis and stuff like that. But you verify it that it's actually accurate. So companies in the AV space can use it to make themselves more efficient, to make their business, the actual business side of AV. The other side, though, is you can leverage it and use it for everything from cameras to audio to everything else that we do.
Yeah. I think that we're at this inflection point where everybody got so excited. There's the Gartner hype cycle, right? When there's this trough of disillusionment. And I think what happens is everybody gets so excited, and it is this wild, wild west, and everybody is embracing it. And then they're like, okay, great, this is fun. I created this meme, right? I did the toy version of me, right? I did the Studio Ghibli version of my family, right? And that's fun. That's a nice little toy, and it genuinely is helping people in certain applications. But I think the longer term value is when we take the technologies and apply it to more specific use cases and more specific solutions, right? Because AI is such a broad term. I think we all. Right now, when people say it, they think of ChatGPT, they think of Claude, right? And that is a great application of generative AI. This multimodal stuff, great. There's a use case for that. But when you take the intelligence and you apply it to new and different things, you can make other stuff way better because AI is embedded, right? Things like intelligent video, the quality of audio is certainly another application. But what if you take that and same intelligence level and apply it to how you deploy a product, how you manage and monitor stuff. So we're still so early in the ways that AI can have a dramatic impact on our industry specifically. But we're at this point now where people are starting to feel real benefit, which is great, and they're motivated and they're excited. And it will drive further inspiration around how to use AI.
Right. That kind of leads me to my next question, right? Obviously on our side of things, it's a bit different because we're immersed in it again. But do you think that people have certain expectations with AI? Are they looking to accomplish certain things? Like you mentioned, you have people that are like, oh, I created, a characterized version of my family or the doll with all the tools and stuff in it. Is it a comfort level thing? Is that certain generation? So do people have certain expectations with AI? Is it like, hey, I really am going to drive this to utilize it every day to help my workflow?
I don't think they have expectations, but they can see there's enough promise there. It's worth trying out every day.
Sure.
Right. And,
It's
and I
getting
think
better.
those early experimenters are doing it deliberately and saying, I will try and leverage this because this is where it's going. It's going to have a dramatic shift. I want to embrace it and try it. And so there are a lot of people that I know that like on their daily task list, go play with AI, right? And that's good. That's given them that look ahead. I don't think anybody really has an expectation for what it is, but they need to, they're playing with it to start to get inspired about how they may use it. And it is genuinely inspirational sometimes when you put stuff in there and it is really helping you in your workflow. It really can have that dramatic impact, but people don't know that until they really get into it and start using it.
Like you just mentioned, go play with AI, right? Yeah. So Tim, how do we train people to start implementing AI to get used to it?
Go play with it. I mean, seriously, I've Lord, I still remember this. This is what was it, 21. And I had heard about ChatGPT through a podcast from the New York Times. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So I opened it up and they had played around with it while they were on the podcast. And so I kind of tried to emulate that, right? And as I dug more and more into it and discovered more and more tools and different AI models, again, just started playing with it. And there is, this AI is not a traditional tool set. It is not programming. It is not writing. It's not even cooking a little bit, but it's not, there's not a college course that you can take and that's all that you're going to learn, right?
Yep.
It is actively playing with it, right? It is actively engaging with it. Quite frankly, one of the smartest things that somebody said to me was go into it and say, what can you teach me? How, give me an outline here of how to interact with you. Help me make prompts. Help me do this. And so, yeah, you really do have to get into it. And then as you're getting comfortable with it, and as you're getting comfortable with the interface and with the prompts, you'll be able to discover more. I don't know who said this, so I apologize, but somebody referenced, 25, 30 years ago, none of us knew how to Google, right? None of us knew how to search. Google is now the equivalent of Kleenex here, but none of us knew how to Google. And now we do.
Yep.
Right. Quite frankly, the algorithm has taught us, right? You don't want to think about that too deeply, but the algorithm did teach us how to Google better.
Yep.
Same thing with AI. The AI is going to teach us how to prompt better based on its interaction and quite frankly, the feedback that it gives us. So yeah, just put somebody in front of your computer, open up an AI and say, knock yourself out.
Well, and back to the Google example, we learned how to leverage it, but in doing that, we are also training Google too, to see like, this is what is useful. This is how we use it. And so there is this iterative loop between the way we embrace it and use it, and then also how those tools get developed, right? And I think it is really exciting. I think that going further with that too is, 20 years ago, cloud was the rage, right? But what is the cloud? I mean, people can describe it, right? But today, the cloud impacts everything that we do without really thinking about the cloud behind it, right? We share documents. We collaborate on a live document, and we don't really think about the cloud there. It's just we need to work on a document that has these great features. And so that's where we will be in the next 3, 4, 5 years, which I think is really, really compelling and exciting, at least on the AI front.
Right. So we employ technology with visual AI, which obviously is a very specific type of AI.
Yep.
Do you gentlemen think that there's some confusion out there about all these different types of AI, right? Because AI seems to just be grouped, right? If you're not in the industry or very in tune with it, you say AI, right? What does that actually mean? So do you think there's confusion around the different types of AI?
Well, the marketing people have taken hold of this word and they use it everywhere, right? And it gets so applied. So yeah, there is a lot of confusion. I think that there are real IT challenges that you have to navigate. There are real legal challenges that you have to navigate. And the fact that the term AI is so broad and applied to many things, that makes it even more tricky. But I think that if we can start looking at how do you apply AI within a specific use case, right? Visual AI is a great one. We've taken computer vision, which is a part of machine learning, which is a part of AI. We have applied it to video conferencing, right? That's a specific application that made that solution better. And this is, I think, what we'll see more and more of, just like the cloud thing. How do you apply cloud to a solution to make it better, like collaborating on a document? So we'll see more of that. And I think we'll talk less about the AI side of it, and we'll talk more about the problem that we're solving by using AI. And I think that will be a great place for us to be.
So I went into ISE and I was on a couple of different people's podcasts and wrote about this, expecting this high level of AI buzz and AI BS, right? Because of the marketing people. And I was pleasantly surprised at that trade show, because I'm not giving you a full pass here, because the AI that we saw at that show was legitimate, right? And a little bit what Brad was saying there is it wasn't like, everything AI, right? It wasn't some breakfast cereal with AI now. It was an actual legitimate use case that actually solved the problem, right? And the companies that were exhibiting at ISE did a good job of explaining that, right? So yes, there is confusion, but it's not as bad as it was, other iterations or other technologies that have come down the pipeline in the past. We've talked about cloud. Everything was cloud, right? For a moment in time. And it was a great buzzword and everybody was talking about it. And you slapped the word cloud on something and you could charge 10, 20% more, right? That was my fear going into ISE when it came to AI. And it proved wrong, right? I was 100% wrong on that. Because again, it feels like either the folks that are in charge of marketing in the companies realized the hype engine around previous technologies, or they just said, look, you know what? Folks are smart and they're going to see through that. So here's the actual honest to God solution. And here's how we're using AI, not just slapping it all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, I think some of that was that the actual development of solutions needed to catch up.
Yeah.
Right. So ChatGPT inspired people to a whole new level, and including those that are building products. And it took a little bit of time. So I think that now we're seeing real applications of that, which I think is certainly good. And people are asking the thoughtful questions and challenging it. You can't just slap AI on an office chair that you're promoting and say, hey, this is an AI enabled office chair. It's like, well, so what?
Right.
You have to answer that. So I think it is a good, and I think it's back to that trough of disillusionment. Yeah. We're wrestling with the real issues of where do we deliver value, right? And how do we answer the so what? And it's good to see some of that actually happening.
Sure. Now, on the advertising side of things, there seems, there's a lot of saturation here, right? We see a lot of advertising companies saying, AI is garbage, except for ours. You should use ours. Yeah. Is that the wrong approach? Should it be everyone in unison trying to bring this to the next level, promoting people getting comfortable with it, like we were chatting about before?
Yeah, quick answer is yes, but I don't think you're going to get there, because when you've got folks that are trying to differentiate themselves, the easy way to do that is to downplay somebody else and try to lift yourself up, right? It's a shortcut, right? It's a cruddy way to do it, but that is kind of human nature and what generically companies have done in the past when it comes to marketing. But it is the wrong answer,
right?
Because the danger there is you're going to denigrate, you're going to demonize certain types of AI, but not others, where none of it's inherently bad or good.
Right.
It's how you use it. Yep. And what you use it for, right? Let's have that conversation. But the danger there in doing what you were talking about is alienating and quite frankly, possibly even damaging the overall reputation of AI when it comes to the marketplace.
Right.
I think, manufacturers just need to put their heads down, build stuff and build great stuff that gets people to want to use it. Right. And I think that's the most important part, right? Speak with the actions. Right. And we just need to move quickly.
The AI, right?
Yeah.
It could be the hardware, but the AI is just bringing it to that next level, right? What separates this product from the rest?
Right. Add that, right? So one of the things that we talked about actually at the keynote is, we're expanding our AI for the deployment of visual AI and in our Automate VX multi-camera system. How can we use computer vision to simplify the deployment process?
Right. Everything else that comes with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's just us putting our head down and let's use AI in a new way and expand that and put that into a solution that earns people's confidence and trust because it just works well, right? And that's, I think, that would be my advice to any other manufacturer, but that's certainly what we're doing.
Our approach,
right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I think they'll be kicking us out of here if we keep going about AI because we'll be here for another couple hours. So let's move on to some other technologies. So, a couple of years ago, it seemed to be all about, the one-touch automation, right? We've moved from one-touch automation to no-touch automation. So Tim, what's the demand for that? How is that being implemented today?
So the demand actually is the one touch was, the give me an easy button, one button push and everything works, right? And I would argue, especially in higher education, the no touch, the concept or the promise has been around for a while.
Right.
And driven by folks who technology is not their thing, right? I'll pick on professors for a second. You might be a great professor of philosophy, but you still have a flip phone, right? Because you're just not technology. So probably 15 years ago, the talk about, a professor walking into a classroom, the system recognizing them by their RFID on their key card, it turns on the system, it automatically knows that this professor likes this, and everything just happens, right? We're finally getting there, right? 15 years later. And, whether that is in the corporate world or the higher education world, that is an ideal, right? That's a goal to get to. And so, the reason for that is you don't want to train everybody, every year on how to use your systems, right? And there's an old adage that if you have to have a manual to teach somebody how to use your touch panel, then you did a bad job designing your touch panel, right? And I still agree with that.
Yep.
That migrated into one touch, right? One button, everything happens, right? The no touch is even a bigger iteration on that, where you walk in and either occupancy sensor senses somebody's in the room, or somebody plugs in a laptop and says, oh, well, you obviously want to present in some way, shape, or form. Let me turn on the system for you. The from a hardware standpoint, what that does is that reduces the number of touch panels, right? And the need for those interfaces. Now, as an old school AV guy, that makes me a little sad, right? Because one of the magical parts of a control system is the intuitive interface and the folks that are really good at doing UI.
Right.
But I also understand it, right? Where giving folks the ability to walk in and just collaborate and just present or just connect is really, really great and actually kind of elevates our industry a bit more. Back to the first thing we talked about, where we are incredibly or even more important now because we're able to just kind of give folks a seamless way to come in and just meet and just collaborate.
I think that this is certainly one of those trends of just simplify, just remove the complexity from the space. And we have all the tools to do that. And we have for a while. And I think people are really starting to embrace it. We're getting better at designing those spaces. And there are more devices that we can use in simplifying that automation. I would challenge, though, I don't know that it's necessarily going to drive a drop in interfaces, because I think that we will need to strike a balance between the no-touch space while giving people still the ability to feel like they're in control, right? Because there are those spaces where you're in a meeting, you want to walk in, it starts up all good to go, but then you're having a sensitive conversation and you need to mute, right?
Yeah.
You need to switch, like, no, we need the camera over there, right there for this reason. And so there's still utility in giving people that control there. So I think there's an opportunity for us to ensure that we've got a good balance, deliver on this no touch and give people that control. And I think you see some of those requests coming in. And so the AV side of us, I think we still have a place.
All right.
Justifiably.
Justifiably.
Right. Justifiably.
Giving people the option for the control, right? All right, so let's move on to some training and the training side of things. So, Tim, how does training adapt here to keep, both our products and market trends kind of in parallel? Is one impacting the other? Is the product demand and the creation there coming from market trends? Is it vice versa? Do these two work together?
I think that it you've got market trends, right? Which obviously you guys are heavily involved in, and you guys, Brad has all kinds of studies that you guys you have access to and that you guys do yourself. What that does is that drives your guys' innovation, right? And drives your products. That then drives the education. Now, you there's a little bit of symbiosis there, but I think that it is the market itself that drives your guys' products and evolution, and then that in turn, drives the need for more and more education. Right? I'm this week I'm sitting in the Modern Work Summit part, and 5 years ago, what I'm learning today didn't exist. Right? So. And in 3 or 4 years, I will have to do this again because, again, more and more iteration, more evolution. So I think I understand that they're a little bit kind of both of them supporting each other, but that market is really kind of driving what you guys do, and then in turn that will drive more and more and the need for more and more education.
Yeah, I think it's one of those very kind of symbiotic things, right? In many ways, our customers are asking us for things. At the same time, we have technology that can be applied in so many ways. It's kind of a good balance where you can have both, like the customer needs evolving, but then you have to understand the technology, and then how do you marry the meeting those needs with what the technology can do, and that ongoing training is super important. Now, you've been in the industry a long time.
Are you calling me old?
No, you're wise.
Seasoned.
You're wise. You're seasoned.
There we go.
You're an industry. Oh no.
Oh yeah. You go right ahead. Keep going there, Hanson.
But you've been around in this industry for quite some time, and yet you sat through Modern Work certification.
100%.
And we talked about it earlier. Some stuff was great. That's cool. But I was like, oh yeah, I learned a lot in this section too, right? And so talk a little bit more about.
So I just generically, Tim's, part of Tim's OS is I constantly have to be learning. I was lucky enough to fall into this industry because this industry itself requires you to constantly learn, right? And so that is just my general stance in life. And so, yes, I have to continue to take courses. Yes, I have to continue to sit through and learn and see where the industry has gone or is going, so I can stay on top of my job, right? Which is covering the industry. So yeah, absolutely, you have to continue to learn and evolve and apply what you got.
Yeah. Tim OS. I love that.
I know. I was actually thinking when he said that.
I'm going to. Can I steal that?
Good reference point.
It's great.
Maybe I'll cut it out and then you can just use that. We'll say Brad came up with it.
That's fine.
Well, and I love you being the one on the couch rather than the host. We get these nuggets of Tim OS. Well, thank you for being here with us, right? I think that your perspective on it is so helpful to us continuing to build out and develop these training programs also.
Yeah. Brad, Tim, thank you guys so much for joining. This has been an excellent chat.
Thank you, sir.
Super informative. Thank you everyone for watching. That is a wrap on this episode of the Smarter Spaces podcast. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.